How can I help you? Or how may I help you? Which sentence is correct? Can you give me a pen, please? Or could you give me a pen, please? Which one is correct? Watch this video and let's find out. Hello and welcome to English Lessons with Kate. In this lesson, we're going to talk about the most common modal verbs in English, and you will learn how to use them correctly. In the first part of the video, we're going to talk about general rules we should know to use modal verbs correctly. In the second part of the video, we're going to learn the difference between can, could, and may. At the end of the lesson, we're going to have a little quiz to test your knowledge, so please stay with me until the very end. You probably have learned English tenses, past, present, and future. But modal verbs are a little bit different. These are the most common modal verbs: may, might, must, can, will, could, should, would. These modal verbs are often used in English conversations. But there are two modal verbs that are used very rarely: ought to and shall. Now I'm talking about American English. In American English, they rarely use these two modal verbs. I'm going to explain the verbs shall and will later today, so please keep watching. Now let's talk about the important rules we need to know to use modal verbs accurately. Rule number 1. Modal verbs don't change. For example, we say, I play, he plays. We add an S for he, she, it. But we do not change the modal verb. For example, I can play the guitar. He can play the guitar. Do not say he cans or she cans. The modal verb always stays the same. She should do the task. We should do the task. We do not say shoulds. Do not change the modal verb. Rule number 2. Use the base verb after a modal verb. We use the base verb after the modal verb. The base verb is the infinitive form without to. She might go to the party with us. We do not say she might to go to the party, or she might go into the party. It is wrong to say this. So the verb after the modal verb stays the same. Do not add to, do not add ing. Take a look at this sentence. I must finish the project. I often hear my students say, I must to finish the project. But we don't need to use to after the modal verb. I must finish the project. I must do it. Not I must to do it. No. Rule number 3. In negatives, we use not after the modal verb. We never use don't, doesn't, isn't, aren't, wasn't, won't with these modal verbs. I could not understand the rule. It would be wrong if I say I could understand the rule. We must not forget about the meeting. It would be wrong if I say we must forget about the meeting. You cannot, you may not, you could not, you must not, you will not, you would not. Or we can use contractions. You cannot becomes you can't. You could not becomes you couldn't. You must not becomes you mustn't. You will not becomes you won't. You would not becomes you wouldn't. Please pay attention to the structure cannot. We say cannot but it's actually one word. I cannot. I cannot do that. When we spell this word, this is a really common mistake. Rule number 4. The modal verb always comes first in questions. Could I help you with your essay? In questions, a modal verb comes before the subject. In this sentence, we have the subject I and two verbs, could and help. Do I could help is not correct. Am I could help is also not correct. So, in questions, the modal verb always comes first. And we do not use auxiliary verbs like do, did, does, am, are, and so on. Can, could, and may. Now let's talk about these 3 modal verbs that we usually use when we ask questions, when we ask someone to do something. Can, could, or may. But how do we know which one to use? First, when we ask a question, we ask for permission or we request someone to do something for us. We start the question with can, could, or may. We use can in more informal situations. I mean when you're with your family or friends. We use could in a little bit more formal situations when we make a polite request. For example, with your colleagues at work or when you're in a store talking to a salesperson. May is used in formal situations when you're talking to a customer, client, or giving an interview and you're trying to be very formal and very polite. There is one important grammar rule. When forming questions with can and could, any subject pronoun can be used. We can say, for example, can I, can you, can we, can she, can he, could they, could she, could he, okay? But when we use may, we can just use it with I or we. May I or may we? We can't ask permission for someone else. May I borrow your pen? May we sit here? Now let's compare 3 different words in the same question. Can I have some tea? Could I have some tea? And may I have some tea? If I'm at home, I can ask one of my family members, can I have some tea? This situation is really informal, so we use can. Let's say I'm in a coffee shop. It's a little bit more formal situation and I could ask, could I have some tea? And now let's imagine that I'm in a fancy restaurant ordering some tea and I would say, may I have some tea? Also, you could add the word please. You may also hear, can I have some tea, please? I often hear my students say, it's not correct to say, can I have? Or it's rude to say, can I have? It's not. It's not rude, it's just less formal. People say that. That's totally normal. And now I'm talking about American English. Not about British English or Canadian English, just American English. The phrase can I have is commonly used in everyday speech and it's simply less formal. It's a direct and straightforward way to ask for something. Every time you go to the store, you will hear, may I help you? And you can also hear, how can I help you? Both phrases are commonly used in customer service. The modal verb can is not always about a skill or physical ability to do something. For example, can you swim? I can swim. We're talking about the ability. But it is also about asking for permission and giving permission. For example, can I go home now? You can go home now. Will or shall. Now let's talk about the difference between shall and will. Shall is going to sound more formal and more polite than will. I shall call them now sounds more formal than I will call them now. Like I said before, native speakers do not use shall so much in American English. It's not incorrect, but it may sound very formal and very polite sometimes. In polite questions, shall is used when we ask something or offer something. Shall we? Shall we dance? Or shall I do the dishes? In this case, I'm making a polite offer to do the dishes. I'm offering to do the dishes. But it sounds very formal. We can just say, should I do the dishes? It's a more natural way to say this. We use will when we talk about decisions we make in the moment. For example, I will call them now. I will go to the party. When we ask a question about the future or make a request, we often use will. Will you help me with my homework? Will you go to the party? Now let's have a little quiz. Let's check if you can use modal verbs correctly. Question 1. Which sentence is correct? A. He can speak 3 languages. B. He can speak 3 languages. C. He can speak in 3 languages. The correct option is B. He can speak 3 languages. Question 2. Which sentence is correct? A. May I to use your phone? B. May I use your phone? C. May I use in your phone? The correct option is B. May I use your phone? 3. Which sentence is correct? A. You must not to leave the door open. B. You must not leave in the door open. C. You must not leave the door open. The correct option is C. You must not leave the door open. Question 4. Which sentence is correct? A. She might goes to the party tonight. B. She might to go to the party tonight. C. She might go to the party tonight. The correct option is C. She might go to the party tonight. Question 5. Which sentence is correct? A. Could you help me with my homework? B. Do you could help me with my homework? C. Could you helping me with my homework? The correct option is A. Could you help me with my homework? Thank you for watching this video. You did a fantastic job today. I hope this video was useful for you and now you know how to use modal verbs correctly. If you want to make me a little bit happier, you can send me a super thanks. Please join me on Instagram. I've recently created a new account where I post short video lessons every day. Please don't forget to click the like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet, and I'll see you in my next video.